Hey, everybody, this is Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. I want to share this very interesting consciousness with you. Now, I'm going to let you guys witness me being a guinea pig a little bit here. Ardif, through my communication with Treb and Ardif, John, Craig, who helps me with the courses and the website and the channel panel, he was talking to Treb and Ardif a little bit ago, and he had asked them if there are any other beings who are very benevolent and that can connect with me on an energetic level, like the next type of consciousness closest to me, like Treb is, or a being who may have been a replacement for Treb, because at that time, Treb was just the closest one to me. And we are talking about all these things. And they described this being who is Arcturian, who actually has been a guide of mine, I think, for a while. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they gave me a really interesting name, and it was Moogi Boshi. And at first, I was like, wow, that sounds crazy. And then after some investigation, I looked into it and put in the word as best as I could spell it. And then I found that that is actually the old Japanese name for the star Arcturus. And it translates to straw hat in Japanese lore. The part of constellation that Arcturus is in is a reddish, like straw colored hat. And it has to do, I'm not sure of the exact themes of it, but it had to do with someone who was like a farmer or a wheat harvester in Japanese lore. And it's very unique to me because this being I'm going to be able to directly channel. And that's why I'm saying I'm going to be a guinea pig and you guys are going to watch me be a guinea pig. I have never just jumped into directly channeling another being like this before, besides Metatron and the Nihal Collective, but even they had introductions with me. Like Metatron, I channeled directly, but by myself, that's the only other being. The Nihal had come through with Treb and Ardif several times before I could connect with him directly myself. And I haven't channeled the Nihal for a long time, and I've been channeling Metatron more. So I'm starting to play with my channeling again. I just want you guys to be a witness to me playing with my channeling. I know it sounds funny. I've been doing channeling since like 2008. So, like, literally, it's been 17 years that I've been able to channel or connect with Treb, and then channeling about 2010. So, it's weird for me to say playing, but I did go through this stage in 2015 where I started playing around with the channeling, working on conscious channeling, working on connecting with Treb and Ardif more directly and in a conscious state. And I was able to do that. And back then, that's when my channeling started really expanding. That's when I connected with Metatron, and that's when I connected with a Nihal. And that's also when my channeling started getting a lot better. And because I've been channeling Metatron more, I feel pushed to expand more things that I'm doing. So I wanted you all to be witness, to take part of this beautiful interaction. And I hope you guys enjoy it. You know, meet Moogi Boshi, the Arcturian being who is connected to me, and we'll find out more. All right, guys. Love you guys. Thank you for joining. We'll see you on the other side. Hello, dear ones. Greetings. My name is, in fact, Moogi Boshi, and I am happy to acquaint with you. So there are questions, and those questions will be answered in due time, but the important questions that can be answered now with the time that we have is who that I am, and where I am from, and what I am doing. Where I am from is Arcturus, and this is known to all of you very well through your interactions with other beings who exist there. Many humans are unaware of the amount of different races that live there. There are 13 different races. Specifically, in my own dimension, only 3. This dimension is seventh dimension. The terms that you've become accustomed to using are 6 density. The consciousness of our own race is a very large consciousness, a collective energy. There are also our children or hybrids that exist in the fifth density, the sixth dimension. The energy exchange that we have had with humans has been quite regular. The experience of humans directly connecting through communication has been very small, but the influence of our entire collective has worked with humans for many thousands of years from the time frame of Earth standards. The energy that we have exchanged has always been for the benefit of human consciousness to grow and develop, and the collective group of Arcturians mostly care for humans, love humans, and participate in collaboration with humans. So much so that the grid systems in both of our solar systems are tied heavily, that our planetary grid system is directly connected to your solar system and planetary grid systems also. The connection of communication is instant for that reason. The amount of times that we communicate with humans are nearly every second of every day. The connection is very strong between the grid systems, especially in the last 4 years of your Earth Standard Time. That experience for the acceleration of human consciousness only meant that we were able to give more of our consciousness to you at one time. Even before, if we would have tried to give you the amount of consciousness that we can now, it would have never all reached you. The filtration system for the specific dimensional energy that becomes exchanged filters out a great equivalence of that energy before the marking period of 2021. After the end of the year of 2021, the amount of energy became much more instantly, and we always give the maximum amount of our collective energy to yours because many humans also share their collective energy with us. Many humans who carry Arcturian genetics in a physical state are already giving our own solar system a great deal of energy. This is a mutual developmental energy. We are able to grow from the human shared experience as humans are able to grow from the Arcturian collective experiences. So, in some sense, souls share experience at soul levels so that the individuals can pull from those shared collective experiences. This is very similar to how humans work with their own energy with past lives inside of their own oversouls. This is a very, very large experience of energy exchange compared to what humans do with many other races. The only other races that you exchange equal to or greater energy are the Syrian beings and Pleiadian beings. And we three collectively make up more than 70% of the total exchange of energy with humans from Earth, even though there are multiple other races that share small percentages of the incoming energy into Earth and the incoming energy into your solar system collective field. Arcturian beings work mostly with light vibration, the visible spectral light, and invisible to the human eyes on many of those spectrums, but also sound vibrations. The range that you're able to see with the spectrums of light is a very small percentage of light that exists in the entire universe. Even your scientific instruments are only able to pick up less than 25% of spectral light capacity. The sound vibration is even smaller. Sound vibration frequencies that start at the lowest vibrational rate next to zero frequency, all the way to the fastest vibration, which is near the speed of light vibrational frequency, is the entire spectrum of vibrating matter in the universe. The sound that that vibration produces are in such small increments that there is no human number that exists that can measure all of those sounds. The largest number that you've been able to mentally understand is still a very small sliver of a great spectrum. And the increments inside of the visual light spectrums are also drastically lower in human perspective and even instrumental perspectives than what we have in our entire understanding through telepathy alone. Telepathy increases the amount of light and sound vibration that we are able to perceive outside of the physical instruments that we have to perceive them. Your physical instruments are your eyes and your ears. Your sense of touch also picks up vibration. So you have three senses while we have four that can produce both vision and vibration reception. And our own instruments internally have much less resistance to picking up a higher spectrum of those frequencies from our biology and also from our dimensionality. Now, the way that we work with light and sound are much different than humans may also perceive. The fact that we understand the universal creative build is a very important factor for this. The concept of geometry is something that humans have been able to understand since first taught by the Anunnaki beings who first inhabited your planet. And when they taught you about sacred geometry, they also taught you a very small spectrum of that. Our integral understanding of the expression in how geometry manifests itself physically through smaller matter on atomic levels, on cellular levels inside of the physical structures, and even molecular structures on inanimate matter or elemental matter, gives us the opportunity to integrate vibration of sound and light into very unique ways for external forms of technology. We have instruments, and those are biological instruments, but we also have instruments that are technological instruments. Those give us 1,000-fold increase on receiving the different spectrums of both light and sound in vibrational frequencies. This is something that we use to the benefit of our race and also with humans by creating what many have called the healing chambers of light or the Arcturian healing chambers. These are not actual chambers. They are the encoding of light and sound with technology to manifest the healing process of cellular levels and physical levels. There are multiple layers of energy that become intimately involved in the energetic field of the human consciousness. There are also many layers inside of the physical human body. All of these have multiple layers, and the energy of encodement into the light and sound integrate to all of those different layers differently. So imagine your body has the layers that you're aware of. You have marrow in the side of your bones, then you have bones, and then you have the muscular system connected with ligaments and connected with cartilage, and all of these parts are then covered with a dermis and also covered with skin. And outside, there are even 7 layers of upper skin. And then you go into the energy layers of human beings that you have knowledge of. This is the physical energy body. This is the mental body. This is the emotional body. This is the aura field. This is the chakra field. All of these different layers. Now, understand that the layers that exist are much greater and more complex than the simple understanding. So, for each layer that exists in the physical body, which there are thousands, and energy bodies, which there are tens of thousands, there must be also a perfectly matched vibrational layer inside of our technology. Now, this is important because we want to help humans understand the internal technology and also understand some layers of external technology that's already readily available for use of humans. And by using both of these, we want to help offer a regenerative process to the human experience now. Coming into this dimensional shift, consciousness shift, and overall shift of human awareness, we want to add something for you even more. And by being able to verbalize the communication or channel state through a human of value that has already been connected with my consciousness for a long time, this gives me the opportunity to share some of these things in more direct ways. We won't start speaking about the external technology until we have laid out an entire process of the internal technology, an entire process of learning these multitudes of layers, and also the importance of the vibration, sound, and light. And once we get that understanding across to you, then we can start working with an external technological layer. I'll take some questions now.
Thank you so much for at this time of transition and raising consciousness to offer this wisdom around our internal and external technology. It's a very beautiful gift.
It is one, but one deserving of all in the universe. And because these gifts had been given to you long ago and then taken away from the memory of the collective consciousness, it's yours by birthright without requirement for gratitude, only our own joy and passion of helping humans remember.
Thank you so much. Could you speak about your connection with Rob and also about the agreement? It sounds like through his higher self and other aspects of him at this time to work with you to bring this knowledge and information through.
Yes, the contract with Rob was something that was very simple. It was an acceptance for him to allow the consciousness to connect, but our relationship goes much further than that. I, in my own consciousness, have shared human incarnations. One of those incarnations that I have memory of is Rob himself. So I am connected through the soul and through the consciousness, the overall structure you would call an oversoul. And this is my own direct connection with him. I have been around for some time knowing that there was a very strong possibility that one day he would be able to connect in the way that he's able to connect now, with channeling consciousness, with layers of understanding, integration, and exporting the consciousness that he receives, and in a channeled state for humans who are open to the concept and ability of channelers. This gave me the opportunity to share. So, for that reason, I'm here now. The connections that we have are also beyond this. The beings that are accompanying Rob throughout his journey of processing and opening the channeled state, the beings you call Treb and Aradif, these two beings are also within my level of awareness, and I have been able to receive wisdom and understanding from them. And through that level of co-creation. It's been a very strong probability that one day his interest would turn to opening his consciousness for more types or varieties of beings in a direct manner. And when the question was struck and the answer was given, I knew that this would be a strong possibility for us to connect, because we are in fact closer in many ways than many of the other guides that he works with that he hasn't channeled or hasn't had levels of awareness. What is interesting to me is for how curious this human being Rob is, that he hasn't wanted to know more information about the other guides that work with him. The ones he has levels of awareness for, he holds in great regard, he holds in great esteem, he holds a personal affection in his heart for these beings, as if they were family members who walk down the street and to live in the house with him. He holds them in that high of regard, but has never thought to ask the question of who the other beings are, or ask for introductions to some of the other beings. Now, he has asked this before and has received answers before about other beings who have worked with him, but not in an aggressive way where he would chase that idea onto fruition. And look where we are now. The question came from an external part of energy, and he received it well, and here we are.
Yes, I certainly felt nudged by that same curiosity to suggest that, and your coming through and also the Earth reptilian who came through was really a spectacular connection and expansion and learning. So I personally, with whatever participation I have in this, I am super excited about this connection and this energy coming through, and it sounds like this was the perfect time for that to happen.
Yes, all in accordance to time, all in accordance to the energy of acceptance and reception to the human. And because Rob is going through great deals of transition with his mind, with his heart, with his body, it allows transition of consciousness. And during times of transitional consciousness, the opportunity for new connections to be made becomes much stronger. You received that intuitively. Rob received this intuitively, and here we are.
Very exciting. You talked about working and sharing information for us to have a better understanding of the internal technology and the energetic systems, and also gaining information about that before working with the external technology, which makes a lot of sense. I believe you also said that this was information and knowledge that we had at some point in our evolution, and that was taken away. I guess two questions. Could you talk about what we were able to tap into previously, and also how best can we structure and proceed for the most people to benefit with this understanding, if there's a cadence or a preference or an excitement around that?
Yes, we'll deal with the question at hand of the history before we go into the answer of now, as it seems quite relevant with the linear time receiving that you have. The first understanding comes from the history. You did, in fact, have all of this knowledge early on. Some of the very first versions of human beings were given much greater insight than what they have now with their internal knowledge, their internal technology, and also their simple intuitive self. The lifespan of human beings also were much longer, and this was directly at the very beginning and after the first integration of change for human beings from the Anunnaki. And then, of course, the consciousness got too large for the deeds at hand. This created a lashback from the Anunnaki towards the humans and genetically removed the longevity aspects of your DNA. Mitochondrial DNA was implemented to only create a certain shelf life for the human consciousness. The telomeres were cut down, and this was what created a shorter lifespan. And then energetically, the way that your energy flows, they also changed the mechanics of that on a biological, physical level, so that the body couldn't integrate the same amount of consciousness. And it has been played with multiple times since then. Other races have increased and decreased that throughout the time in history. Other races, such as Arcturian beings, Syrian beings, and Pleiadian beings, came down to Earth when they gave their own DNA and then shared some of these knowledges again. And the integration of that knowledge became multiple times in your society, multiple times in your timeline. Now, you have been left to your own devices for some time, and naturally are evolving the ability to do this again. And with the consciousness being open on Earth, this also allows the next level of information to come in. So the concept of now and how that time works, the energy of our exchanges will be shared at the pleasure of Rob's own cadence, his willingness and excitement to work with our consciousness rather than that of Ardif or Treb in regular cases or in temporary cases, or if he only decides to work with us once per month or once per year. This would be much slower than if he worked with us every day. So the amount of information is the same. There's a finite level of information that is required to come in before the external technology develops. And even at its slowest pace or slowest cadence, it could take multitudes of years to get the information out. But even at its fastest pace, it could be over 2 to 3 years of sharing the information of the internal technology before going into external technology development.
Thank you so much. And could you give us some idea? You talked about the change to the mitochondrial cells and DNA, the shortening of the telomeres. When you look at what our potential is right now, if we're able to integrate this information that you are sharing, I don't know if you could give us some kind of idea about what's possible with that, how much change or healing based on where we are in our evolutionary cycle, where we are in consciousness right now. Could you give some kind of idea about what's possible or the benefits of that?
Yes, the possibility is quite endless for the human structure. It could increase multiple hundreds of years on lifespan, but your technology will outpace the internal technology, meaning your external technology will develop faster than you can with your internal technology when it comes to longevity of the human life. Many humans will opt into creating external technologies or integrating those external technologies well before their mental status is able to change many of the thought patterns, belief systems, and work with the internal technology. This doesn't mean that humans can't do both. They, in fact, will do both eventually. But the experience that humans have now, once we have shared all of the internal technologies and humans study and use that technology, this can increase up to 10 years on this lifespan at this time in the next 2 to 3 years of developing the information to share with humans. The external technology can increase automatically from 15 to 20 years on the average lifespan, but the human technology externally and technologically will develop where that will be the case or faster. So using both can perhaps integrate even further processes depending on what technology becomes manifest from the human development state. human development is always looking for a better way to live longer, to live more, and some technologies exist there already that are not more available for humans to receive. But the consciousness aspect of this can be available for all without payment, without insurances, without going through the technicality of red tape and bureaucracy that happens on Earth when it comes to medical processes. So it will be neck to neck for the next few years with internal versus external, but the external technology will develop much more quickly.
Thank you so much. And this is a little bit not off topic, but when you look at, how do I frame this? Any external technology that is developing to come into our reality that we can interact with, that is being quote unquote discovered, I would say again, maybe my understanding of how the manifestation works with that is we have to have access to that, whether it's through our consciousness has to have access to that, whether it's internally or externally, for that to come into our reality. So, from your, I'm curious if that's true, but also, and that could be, with more open contact where a race such as the Aiel come in who already have much more advanced technology. And I know there's protocols about that, but in your perspective, is there a difference between the development of the internal technology versus the external? Because if it's a possibility for us that it's coming into our reality, it, I think our consciousness has to be aware of it first.
Yes, you are correct. And also within the same aspect of energy, in being correct. Yes, many of the technologies that will become available are rediscovered by humans or have already been discovered but will leak more into the collective energy. And yes, consciousness of humans must be open to having longer lifespans in order to receive the technology that breaks through. But this is already strongly in the presence of humans. Their fear to die creates the desire for longevity. This also creates the aspect of growth in timelines. This is why less than 1,000 years into your history, you were only living to 35 and 40 years old. 1,000 years before that, 25 and 30 years old. Now, in a short span of time, in less than 200 years, you went from a 50-year-old to 80, and sometimes 90, and sometimes 100 years old. So the consciousness is growing rapidly. Also, the fear grows rapidly. And with external technology, there's often coincidence with the two things that are fear and desire to live longer. And it is in the consciousness very strong now. The consciousness that is external to your planet, the hybridized programs, the IL, the other races of beings who may be in the first place to visit physically on Earth, these beings also have their own internal and external protocols, but you are correct that the human's acceptance or willingness to go through the process of trusting, also the process of learning, has to come from an expanded level of consciousness, despite what the motivation of that growth in consciousness is. If it is fear, it will manifest as external technology. If it is not fear, and it is a sense of love or acceptance, then it becomes internal technology. Both will grow and develop on Earth, but both also have their places for different groups of humans, and there will be some humans who are more neutral. Rob would be a very strong candidate for a more neutral setting of energy, may develop an interest in integrating both external and internal technologies. simultaneously.
And based on our soul history, or obviously we have a very diverse genetic makeup, are there some races that are much more open to integrating that external technology? I can say for me personally, I almost feel an aversion to that. So are there some races that where folks are more tuned into a certain archetype of, like some people, I mean humans, if they're more tuned into a certain archetype of a DNA of a particular race, that they have more proclivity to that?
The proclivity will come from the human consciousness in the moment and the human consciousness individually. But you are correct. Some archetypes do lean towards either proclivity of external or proclivity of internal technology. Examples: those who hold higher levels of the reptilian consciousness would have more proclivities to work with external consciousness and external technologies, although the reptilian archetype itself holds strength in their internal technologies. The beings who are more in alignment with Pleiadian consciousness or Arcturian consciousness may lean towards the integration or the aspects of the consciousness internally technological. And this expression comes also in a divide. Some Pleiadian genetics, especially those from the Anunnaki, they may lean more towards external, while the Pleiadian beings who were a secondary Pleiadian energy from another race of Pleiadians who came later in the timeline would be more inclined towards internal technology. But there will be many humans who carry more reptilian energy inside of their archetypal consciousness that would rather go with internal, and many who are Arcturian who would rather go with the external technology.
Thank you so much. Well, this has been an incredible introduction. And I guess two things for folks, and this is a very human thing. Could you share any more about your race? What people are often very interested in, what your physical appearance is. I know being in as high a density and dimension as you are, you probably, the physical aspect and physical bodies, you're still embodied, but that is probably very different than what our experience is. But what your appearance is like, if there's and I know time works very differently, like an average lifespan for your particular race.
Yes, so our race, humans, have already come to understand in a physical sense, although most of the beings who are portrayed in our collective are our fifth density or sixth dimensional hybrid beings, and these are the very tall, slender, blue skinned beings with no hair and larger bulbous heads. And we appear exactly as they do, only within a higher dimension. The lifespan for our own race, if you're translating it to human year times, this is into the 80,000 to 120,000 year marks.
So you certainly have much you could teach us about longevity then.
Yes, and part of that is dimensional, part of it is energetic, part of it is our technology. But yes.
And your physical archetype, you talked about the sixth and fifth, who, as what is commonly depicted as Arcturian, is the tall, blue skin, slender with the elongated head. Is your archetype different than that?
No, this is the exact archetype. Our archetype was the original, and the one that's depicted mostly is our hybrid race in a fifth density. So we look and appear nearly identical.
Wonderful. And I guess before we end this particular transmission, is there anything that you could share that would be helpful to share about this internal technology that folks could have in their consciousness now?
Not at this time. We do wish to convey information in a very specific way, and it will be engineered to understand one thing at one time per transmission.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I am absolutely delighted and excited. I think Rob will be absolutely delighted and excited, and really honored that we're able to co-create with you in this way. And yeah, absolutely committed to whatever it takes to help facilitate this, and you know, in whatever manner of service to help share this information with more individuals.
Yes, when Rob hears this, we already have a strong indication that he will be very excited, and many humans who receive this information also will feel excited, and we ourselves in our entire collective are excited, and I am personally also excited. We leave you with many blessings.
And to you, much love to you and much gratitude.
Yes, and that love is received and given back.